I'm Herman Watson, 28, and for years my mother called my design degree useless money down the drain. Every family dinner became her stage to mock my career choice. Then last year I paid off her entire mortgage with my useless degree earnings. Her reaction? Not gratitude, but entitlement. That's when I made the hardest decision of my life, cutting them off completely. What happened next shocked even me. If you're watching this, drop a comment letting me know where you're viewing from. Hit that like button and subscribe to see how following your passion can change everything. Growing up in Elmwood Park, a middle-class suburb just outside Chicago, my childhood home was spotlessly maintained but emotionally cold. My mother, Margaret Watson, ran our household with military precision and unwavering expectations. She was a hospital administrator who measured success in stability, prestige, and practical career choices. My father, Robert, worked as an accountant at a mid-sized firm and mostly faded into the background during family disagreements. Then there was my younger sister, Lisa, who quickly learned that following Mom's blueprint for life was the path of least resistance. From my earliest memories, I was drawn to colors, shapes, and visual beauty in a way that confused my practically minded family. While other kids in our neighborhood played sports, I spent hours redesigning cereal boxes and sketching improved logos for local businesses. I'd spread my drawings across our kitchen table, carefully arranging them to show my parents. "That's nice, Herman," my mother would say without looking up from her paperwork. "But don't get marker on the table. And make sure you finish your math homework before bed." My father would occasionally glance at my work, sometimes offering a small nod or brief smile, but never the encouragement I craved. In 6th grade, everything changed when I met Mrs. Keller, my art teacher. The first time she saw my sketch of our school mascot, reimagined, she stopped grading papers. "Herman, have you ever considered design as a career?" she asked. I remember staring at her blankly. "You can get paid to do this." Mrs. Keller laughed and introduced me to graphic design magazines, showing me portfolios of professional designers. For the first time, I saw a potential future that excited me. She even started an after-school design club, just for students interested in creative careers. When I excitedly told my parents about Mrs. Keller's praise, my mother's response cut deep. "That's a nice hobby, Herman, but let's focus on what will actually put food on the table someday." By high school, I enrolled in every art and design class available. My art teachers consistently encouraged me to pursue my talents, but at home, the response remained dismissive. My mother directed most of her attention toward Lisa, who showed promise in science and mathematics, practical subjects that could lead to respectable careers in medicine or engineering. The summer before my junior year, I created my first paid project, a complete rebrand for Java Junction, a local coffee shop. The owner, Mr. Reyes, had noticed me sketching logo ideas while studying there and offered me $300 to refresh their visual identity. I spent weeks perfecting the design, creating a warm, inviting logo that captured the shop's community atmosphere. When I brought home the check practically floating with pride, my mother barely acknowledged it. "That's cute, but don't let this distract you from your college applications. Engineering programs are competitive." By senior year, the college discussion became a battleground. Applications were due, and I knew exactly where I wanted to go: the prestigious Chicago Institute of Design. My mother had other plans. "Northwestern has an excellent business program," she said during dinner one night, "or pre-med at University of Illinois. Those are degrees that mean something in the real world." "I don't want to be a doctor or a businessman," I argued. "I want to design." "Design." She laughed, not the warm kind. "You might as well major in unemployment. I'm not paying for you to draw pictures for 4 years. Despite her objections, I applied to the Chicago Institute of Design anyway. When my acceptance letter arrived with a partial merit scholarship, I was ecstatic. My mother was not. "This is a mistake you'll regret," she said coldly. "Don't come crying to us when you can't find a real job." I packed my belongings that fall with equal parts excitement and dread thrilled. to pursue my passion but carrying the weight of my family's disappointment. Walking into the Chicago Institute of Design that first day felt like stepping into another dimension. Suddenly, I was surrounded by people who spoke my language, who understood why the spacing between letters mattered, and could debate color theory for hours. For the first time in my life, my passion wasn't just tolerated, it was celebrated. I quickly formed friendships with classmates who shared my obsession with design. Jason was a typography genius who could identify fonts from 50 paces. Allison approached design like architecture, building stunning layouts with mathematical precision. Trevor brought emotional storytelling to everything he created. We'd spend late nights in the studio pushing each other to refine our work while sharing pizza and dreams of future careers. "Your composition sense is incredible," my professor commented on my first major project. "You have a natural eye for balance." These words were like water in a desert after years of my mother's drought of encouragement. But even as I thrived academically, the shadow of family disapproval followed me. My mother called regularly, each conversation circling back to the same point. "It's not too late to transfer to a business program." When I described exciting projects or new skills I was learning, she'd sigh audibly. "That all sounds nice, Herman. But what about job security? Your cousin Jeffrey just got accepted to law school. Now that's something to be proud of." That first year wasn't without struggles. I found myself battling to balance technical skills with creative vision. Some projects came back with harsh critiques that left me questioning my abilities. During one particularly difficult week, after 3 sleepless nights redesigning a failed project, I nearly called my mother to admit defeat. Instead, I called Mrs. Keller, my middle school art teacher who had stayed in touch. Her confidence in me never wavered. "Design is problem-solving, Herman," she reminded me. "You've always been good at seeing solutions others miss. Stick with it." Summer brought an internship at a small Chicago design agency. The pay was minimal, but the experience was invaluable. I worked alongside professionals, learning how client expectations translated into creative briefs and final deliverables. When I returned for sophomore year, my skills had sharpened considerably. Then came the university's annual design competition. I spent weeks developing my entry, a comprehensive brand identity for a fictional, sustainable clothing company. The morning they announced winners, I stood in disbelief as the dean called my name for first place. The prize included a monetary award and display of my work in the school's prestigious gallery. I called home immediately, hoping this tangible achievement might finally earn some recognition. "That's nice," my mother said flatly. "Your sister just got accepted to Northwestern pre-med. Full scholarship." Holidays became increasingly tense affairs. Thanksgiving of my junior year, my mother introduced me to family friends as our son who's studying art things. The dismissive wave of her hand made clear her assessment of my education. "Herman draws logos," she explained to our dinner guests. "Though I keep telling him it's not too late to switch to accounting like his father." My father remained silent during these exchanges, occasionally shooting me apologetic glances but never contradicting my mother. Lisa, sensing an opportunity to solidify her position as the successful child, often joined in. "At least someone in the family is studying something practical," she'd say, smiling at our mother for approval. To reduce my dependence on family support, I began taking on freelance projects during junior year. I designed event posters for campus organizations, created logos for friends starting small businesses, and built simple websites for local shops. Each project built my portfolio while providing modest income. Family gatherings became showcases for my mother's disappointment. At a cousin's wedding, I overheard her telling relatives Herman's still doing that art degree. Such a waste of potential. We're hoping he'll come to his senses before graduation. By senior year, despite the constant undermining my work, had developed a distinctive style that professors and visiting professionals began to recognize. My senior showcase attracted attention from several industry representatives, including a creative director from a respected Chicago agency, who slipped me his card. "We have an opening for a junior designer," he said. "Send me your portfolio when you graduate." At graduation, my family attended with obvious reluctance. As I crossed the stage to receive my Bachelor of Fine Arts in Graphic Design, I searched the audience for my mother's face. She was checking her watch. "Well, I suppose congratulations are in order," she said afterward, her voice dripping with backhanded praise. "Let's hope you can actually do something with this. Degree. I clutched my diploma tighter, both proud of my achievement and hurt by the continued dismissal. Little did I know the real battles were just beginning. With my degree in hand and a modest savings from freelance work, I rented a small studio apartment in Chicago's uptown neighborhood. It wasn't much, just 450 square feet with a kitchenette and a view of the building's air conditioning units. But it was mine. And more importantly, it was free from my mother's constant criticism. The creative director who had approached me at graduation kept his word, and I landed a junior designer position at Meridian Design Group. The starting salary of $38,000 was lower than what my engineering and business school friends were making. But I was ecstatic to be paid for doing what I loved. My first few months were a steep learning curve. School projects, I discovered, were nothing like client work. Deadlines were tighter, feedback was blunter, and revisions seemed endless. But I absorbed everything like a sponge, staying late to observe senior designers and volunteering for additional projects to expand my skills. When I called home to share news of my first completed professional campaign, a series of ads for a regional bank, my mother's response was predictably dismissive. "Julie Thompson's son just started at Deloitte, making $75,000, she remarked. "And here you are drawing pictures for banks. When are you going to get a real career?" These comparisons became a constant refrain. Every family call included updates about former classmates entering respectable professions, medicine, law, finance, with my mother's unsubtle implication that I had chosen wrong. Despite the discouragement, I threw myself into building my portfolio, taking on personal projects during evenings and weekends. I redesigned fictional brands, created spec work for companies I admired, and documented my process on a professional website. 6 months into my job, I met Megan at a friend's housewarming party. She worked in marketing for a tech startup and actually understood what I did for a living. On our third date, she asked to see my portfolio. "You have a unique style," she said, scrolling through my projects. "Really clean, but with these subtle touches of personality. You're going places, Herman Watson." Her words were a balm after years of my mother's doubt. We began dating seriously, and for the first time, I experienced what it felt like to have a partner who valued my creative work. Then came the recession. Meridian Design Group lost several major clients and layoffs followed. As one of the newest employees, I was among the first to go. The timing couldn't have been worse. I had just signed a lease renewal with a rent increase. When I called home to share the news, my mother didn't even try to hide her satisfaction. "Well, this is exactly what happens with these artistic careers," she said. "Not stable like medicine or accounting. Your sister just got accepted to her hospital residency program, by the way. Guaranteed employment." The following months tested my resolve like never before. I drained my savings, paying rent, while freelancing to make ends meet. Some weeks I ate nothing but ramen and peanut butter sandwiches. Megan helped where she could, sometimes accidentally cooking too much dinner and bringing me leftovers. I applied to dozens of design positions with no response. The industry was contracting, and experienced designers were taking junior positions out of desperation. For the first time, I began to wonder if my mother had been right all along. The lowest point came during Thanksgiving dinner at my parents' house. Lisa brought her new boyfriend, a surgical resident she'd met at the hospital. My mother spent the entire meal praising his career choice, while pointedly asking me about my unemployment situation in front of everyone. "Have you thought about going back to school for something practical?" she asked, as she passed the mashed potatoes. "It's not too late to get a useful degree." I pushed food around my plate, humiliation burning in my chest. Later, as I helped my father clear the table, he spoke to me privately for the first time about my career. "Your mother means well," he said quietly. "She just wants security for you." "But does she have to be so cruel about it?" I asked. He sighed. "She's always been afraid of uncertainty." But between us, he glanced toward the living room to ensure we were alone. "I think what you do is pretty remarkable. I couldn't design anything to save my life." It wasn't much, but his small acknowledgement gave me strength to continue. In January, after nearly 4 months of unemployment, I landed an interview with Pixel Perfect, a boutique digital design firm known for innovative work. They had just won several new accounts and needed to expand their team quickly. My portfolio, especially the personal projects I'd completed during unemployment, impressed the creative director. "We need someone who can think beyond the obvious," she said. "Your work shows that kind of thinking." They offered me the job at a salary slightly higher than my previous position. I called my parents immediately to share the good news. "That's nice, honey," my mother said flatly. "By the way, Lisa just got engaged to Dr. Thompson. He's chief resident now, you know." "Mom, did you hear what I said? I got a new job. A better one." Yes, still drawing pictures on computers." "Speaking of computers, can you help your father set up his new email? He's hopeless with technology." I hung up feeling deflated despite my professional victory. Even good news couldn't penetrate my mother's dismissal of my career choice. But I was determined to prove her wrong, not just about the validity of my career, but about my potential for success. At Pixel Perfect, I found myself in an environment that valued innovation and creative risk-taking. My new position as a mid-level designer came with more responsibility and creative freedom than I'd experienced at Meridian. Instead of merely executing others' visions, I was invited to concept meetings and strategy sessions where I could shape projects from the ground up. Within 6 months, I received my first promotion to senior designer after a rebranding project for a tech startup received industry recognition. The creative director pulled me aside after the announcement. "You have something special, Herman," she said. "You don't just make things look good, you solve problems through design." That's rare. I began developing a distinctive approach that combined aesthetic beauty with functional user experience. My designs weren't just visually appealing. They communicated clearly and guided users intuitively. This approach started gaining attention from clients and industry peers alike. During a rare cordial phone call with my sister Lisa, let slip some concerning news about our parents' financial situation. "Mom's worried sick, but won't admit it," she confided. "Dad's medical bills from his back surgery last year wiped out their savings, and they're underwater on the mortgage. 3 months behind already." "Why didn't they say anything to me?" I asked. Lisa laughed bitterly. "Are you serious? Mom would rather lose the house than admit financial problems to her struggling artist son." The conversation weighed on me heavily. Despite years of criticism and emotional neglect, they were still my parents. But more immediately, I saw an opportunity to channel my creative skills into additional income that could potentially help them on my terms. I'd been experimenting with creating design templates that other professionals could purchase and customize for their clients. During evenings and weekends, I developed a collection of logo templates, social media graphics, and website layouts. I set up an online store through a popular design marketplace and listed my first collection. The initial sales trickled in, slowly $50 here, $75 there. Not enough to make a difference for my parents, but promising nonetheless. I continued refining my templates based on customer feedback, while maintaining my full-time position at Pixel Perfect. That spring, I attended the National Design Conference, representing my company. During a networking reception, I struck up a conversation with Daniel Wright, founder of Horizon Tech, a rising star in the tech industry known for innovative products and exceptional branding. "Your company's work on the Clearstream campaign caught my eye," he said after I introduced myself. "Very distinctive approach." "Thank you," I replied. "I was the lead designer on that project." His eyebrows raised. "Really? Well, we should talk. Horizon is planning a complete rebrand before our IPO next year." 2 weeks later, Pixel Perfect received a request for proposal from Horizon Tech, specifically requesting me as the lead designer. It was the largest potential contract in the company's history. The pressure was immense, but I poured everything I had into the pitch. When we won the contract, my reputation within the company soared. The project would take 6 months and required me to assemble a team of designers under my direction, my first management opportunity. Meanwhile, my template business had found its audience. Sales increased exponentially after a popular design blogger featured my work. I was now earning nearly as much from my side business as from my full-time job. Despite working 80-hour weeks between both ventures, I felt energized rather than exhausted. For the first time, I was receiving validation for exactly the career my mother had dismissed for so long. During a brief visit home, I attempted to share my success with my parents. My father showed genuine interest, asking questions about my projects and seeming impressed by the recognizable clients I was working with. My mother, however, remained unmoved. "It's nice you're doing well at your little design job," she said, "but nothing beats the security of Lisa's situation. Did you know her fiancé just made partner at his medical practice? They're looking at houses in Lakewood Estates." Later that same visit, Lisa approached me with a request. "Since you're doing this design stuff professionally, now, would you mind creating all the materials for my wedding? You know, invitations programs, website. For free, of course. That's what family does." I couldn't help but notice the irony. My useless career was suddenly valuable when it benefited her directly. I agreed nonetheless, creating a elegant suite of wedding materials that would have cost thousands from a professional service. At Lisa's wedding, several guests complimented the design work, asking for my business card. My mother overheard one such exchange. "Herman does this as a favor for family," she interjected. "His actual job is..." Well, it's complicated to explain. That evening, I made a decision. My side business had grown to the point where it required more attention than I could give while maintaining full-time employment. After careful financial planning, I submitted my resignation at Pixel Perfect, explaining my plans to focus on my template business and select freelance clients. The creative director was disappointed, but understanding. "You've outgrown us, Herman. But don't be a stranger, we'd love to collaborate in the future." Within 3 months of going independent, I needed to hire assistants. I leased a small office space and brought on 2 junior designers to help manage the growing workload. We expanded beyond templates to offer custom branding packages for startups and small businesses. Then came the feature in Design Quarterly, a prestigious industry magazine. The 4-page spread profiled my unconventional career path and distinctive design philosophy. Orders surged following publication, necessitating 2 more hires and a move to a larger office. I sent a copy of the magazine to my parents, hoping this tangible evidence of success might finally change my mother's perception. When I called the following week, her response left me speechless. "I saw your magazine thing," she said. "Interesting pictures. By the way, Lisa's husband just opened his own practice. Now that's a real accomplishment, helping people, not just making things look pretty on computer screens." Even national recognition in my field wasn't enough to earn her respect. I hung up wondering if anything ever would be. 3 years after striking out on my own, Watson Design Studio had grown from a one-man template shop to a thriving agency with 15 employees and a client waitlist. We'd moved into premium office space in downtown Chicago with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river. Industry awards lined our reception area, and our client list included names that even my mother would recognize. My personal finances had transformed accordingly. I purchased a luxury apartment in Lincoln Park with panoramic city views, a far cry from my first cramped studio. Megan had moved in 6 months prior, and we were discussing marriage and future plans. One Sunday morning, as we enjoyed coffee on our balcony, my phone rang with Lisa's number. "Herman, you need to help," she said, without preamble, her voice tight with panic. "The bank is threatening foreclosure on Mom and Dad's house. They're 3 months behind, and the bank won't work with them anymore." I sat straighter. Why am I just hearing about this now? You know, Mom. She'd rather die than ask for help, especially from you. She doesn't think your computer drawing makes real money. I've been running a successful business for 3 years, Lisa. Well, she still thinks you're barely scraping by. But Herman, they could lose their home. Dad's medical bills kept piling up, and Mom had to reduce her hours to care for him after the second surgery. I felt conflicted. These were the same parents, particularly my mother, who had belittled my career choice at every opportunity, who had never offered genuine support or recognition. Yet the thought of them losing their family home of 30 years was painful. "How much are they behind?" I asked. "About $12, 000. But the bigger problem is the remaining mortgage, almost $180, 000. Their adjustable rate reset, and the payments nearly doubled. They'll never catch up." The amount was substantial, but not impossible, given my current financial situation. I told Lisa I needed time to think and hung up. Megan found me still on the balcony an hour later, staring at the skyline. "What's wrong?" she asked, sitting beside me. I explained the situation, including my complicated feelings about potentially helping parents who had never supported me. "What would it mean to you if you helped them?" she asked carefully. "I don't know. Part of me wants to prove them wrong, show that my useless degree built a life successful enough to save theirs. But another part feels like I'd be rewarding years of emotional neglect." "This isn't about them," Megan said gently. "It's about who you want to be. Their reaction doesn't define the value of your action." Her wisdom resonated. The next day, I met with my financial advisor to discuss options. With the company's recent performance and my personal investments paying off my parents' mortgage outright was feasible without significantly impacting my financial goals. I decided to handle it anonymously through the bank, wanting to help without creating an uncomfortable power dynamic. I contacted their mortgage lender, explained the situation, and arranged to pay the full remaining balance without my parents' knowledge. The transaction was completed within a week. My plan for anonymity fell apart almost immediately. The loan officer, despite my explicit instructions, called my parents to share the wonderful news that their mortgage had been paid in full by their son. By the time I received my mother's call, she already knew everything. "We need to talk," she said, her voice strained. "Family dinner this Sunday." That dinner remains one of the most uncomfortable experiences of my life. I arrived to find my parents and Lisa already seated at the dining table, an unusual formality that signaled the seriousness of the occasion. So my mother began, after minimal greetings. "You paid off our mortgage." "Yes," I replied simply. "Why didn't you tell us you were doing this? Would you have accepted if I had offered directly?" My father looked down at his plate, while my mother's lips tightened. "That's not the point," she said. "This is our house. You should have discussed such a decision with us first." I felt my temper rising. "I just gave you a gift of $180, 000, and you're criticizing how I did it." "Don't use that tone," she snapped. "We're still your parents. And of course we're grateful, but this is what family does for each other." Your sister would have done the same if she could." Her words stunned me. There was no genuine gratitude, no acknowledgement of what this financial gift represented the success of the very career she had belittled for years. Instead, she framed it as an expected family obligation. My father finally spoke, his voice quiet. "What your mother means is that we appreciate what you've done, Herman." It's an incredible weight lifted. His sincere thanks was immediately overshadowed by my mother. "Yes, yes, we're grateful. Now tell us more about this business of yours. Lisa mentioned you have employees. Maybe you could hire your cousin Jeffrey. He's having trouble finding work with his philosophy degree." The conversation had pivoted from my generosity to what else I could provide. I noticed Lisa studying me with new interest, as though seeing me for the first time. "So you must be doing really well," she said. "That apartment in your Instagram photos looked expensive." "I've worked hard to build my business," I replied carefully. Speaking of my mother, interjected, "Now that we know you're successful, we should discuss your father's medical bills. The insurance doesn't cover everything, and there's a specialist in Boston we'd like him to see." I sat in disbelief as she outlined various financial needs, speaking of my resources as though they were family property. When I mentioned having to consider my own financial plans, including eventually starting a family with Megan, my mother waved dismissively. "You're doing drawings on computers. How hard could it be to make more money if you need it? It's not like you're doing something difficult. Like Lisa's husband. Real doctors can't just make more money appear." That comment broke something in me. After years of dismissing my career, she was now simultaneously downplaying my success while planning how to spend its fruits. "My success wasn't luck, Mom," I said, my voice steady despite my anger. "It came from talent, hard work, and persistence, despite having parents who never believed in me." "Oh, don't be so dramatic," she scoffed. "We let you pursue that art degree, didn't we? Though I still think accounting would have been more sensible." In that moment, I realized nothing had changed. The financial dynamics had shifted, but her fundamental lack of respect for my life choices remained intact. My success had only transformed me from disappointing son to convenient resource. I left dinner early, claiming a work emergency. As I drove home, a decision crystallized in my mind, one that would change our family dynamic forever. The morning after that disastrous dinner, I sat in my home office staring at the family photo on my desk taken at Lisa's wedding, all of us smiling for the camera despite the tension beneath the surface. For years, I'd chased my mother's approval, like a mirage in the desert, always visible, but never attainable. The mortgage payment should have been my greatest triumph, irrefutable proof of my success. Instead, it had only reinforced her entitlement and dismissal of my achievements. Megan found me there, still contemplating the photo. "You look like you've made a decision," she said, leaning against the door frame. "I think I have," I replied. "I can't keep doing this, seeking validation from people who are fundamentally incapable of giving it." Over the next week, I had several long conversations with Megan about family dynamics and obligation. Having grown up in a supportive household herself, she couldn't fully understand my experience, but offered unwavering support for whatever I decided. "Family should lift you up, not tear you down," she said. "Sometimes the healthiest thing is distance." I also began seeing Dr. Lorraine Bennett, a therapist, specializing in family relationships. Our sessions helped me understand the patterns that had defined my childhood, how my mother's rigid expectations and conditional love had created deep-seated insecurities that I was still working to overcome. "What you're describing is emotional neglect," Dr. Bennett explained during our third session. "Your achievements were consistently dismissed while your perceived failures were magnified. That creates a damaging pattern that can follow you into adulthood." "But they're still my parents," I argued. "Don't I have some obligation to them?" "Relationships are reciprocal," she replied. "Obligation without respect becomes a form of self-harm. Setting boundaries isn't abandonment, it's self-preservation." Meanwhile, my parents seemed to interpret my financial assistance as an open door to more demands. My mother called regularly with various family emergencies requiring immediate financial intervention, a cousin's tuition, a roof repair for my aunt, a loan for my father's brother's business venture. Each request came with the same underlying message: now that you have money, it belongs to the family. I handled these requests cautiously, evaluating each on its merits rather than automatically agreeing. This selective approach clearly frustrated my mother, who had expected unconditional access to my resources. "Family supports family, Herman," she said during one particularly tense call. "I don't understand why you're suddenly being so selfish." The final breaking point came during what should have been a joyous occasion, Megan's 30th birthday dinner. I had reserved a private room at an upscale restaurant and invited both our families to celebrate. My parents arrived late, my mother immediately commenting on the extravagant venue. "This must cost a fortune," she said loudly while examining the menu. "I guess drawing pictures pays better than saving lives these days." Megan's parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. Throughout dinner, my mother made subtle digs about my career, describing it as playing with computers, and suggesting to Megan's father that I might need career advice from him since he was in a real profession as an engineer. The culmination came when Megan mentioned our plans to visit Paris in the fall, a trip I had surprised her with as part of her birthday gift. "Paris," my mother exclaimed. "While your father and I can barely afford our property taxes, nice to know where your priorities lie, Herman." The table fell silent. Megan squeezed my hand under the table as I felt something finally snap within me. Years of accumulated hurt crystallized into clarity. I would never receive the validation I had sought for so long, and continuing to seek it was damaging, not just to me but to the healthy relationship I was building with Megan. The next morning I drafted a letter to my parents. I spent days revising it, working with Dr. Bennett to ensure it clearly expressed my feelings without unnecessary cruelty. The final version read, "Mom and Dad, after careful consideration, I've decided I need to establish some distance in our relationship. For years, I've sought your approval and respect for my career and life choices, only to be consistently met with dismissal and criticism. The recent incidents following my assistance with your mortgage have made it clear that the fundamental dynamic between us hasn't changed. What has changed is my willingness to accept it. I will always be grateful for the opportunities you provided during my childhood, but I need to prioritize my emotional well-being and future with Megan. This means stepping back from regular contact while I work through the impact of our relationship on my life. This isn't a decision I've made lightly or in anger. It comes from recognizing that the current pattern isn't healthy for any of us. I wish you both well, and hope that someday we might build a new relationship based on mutual respect. Herman." I sent the letter via email and certified mail to ensure it couldn't be ignored. The response was swift and predictable, a barrage of calls, texts, and emails expressing shock, anger, and accusations. "After everything we've done for you," my mother's voicemail began, "this is how you repay us. By abandoning your family." Lisa called next, her voice icily controlled. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Mom's beside herself. "Dad isn't speaking. All because you're too sensitive to take a little criticism." "It's not about criticism," I tried to explain. "It's about a lifetime of dismissal, and now sudden interest only because of my financial success." "That's ridiculous," she snapped. "They're your parents. They have the right to say whatever they want to you." My father's response came several days later, a brief text that simply read, "I understand more than you might think. Take the time you need." Those 12 words contained more genuine understanding than my mother had shown in years. The following months were challenging, but transformative. Without the constant undercurrent of family disapproval, I found new focus in both my personal and professional life. Watson Design Studio continued to thrive, expanding into new markets and service offerings. Megan and I became engaged, planning a wedding that reflected our values rather than family expectations. I found unexpected comfort in the community of friends and colleagues I'd built over the years, people who appreciated my talents and supported my journey. Jason from design school had become my company's creative director. Allison collaborated with us on major projects. Trevor had moved to New York but remained a close friend and occasional consultant. Megan's family embraced me fully, never questioning the validity of my career or success. Her father, the engineer my mother had appealed to for real career validation, actually asked for my professional opinion on his company's rebranding efforts. "You've got an eye for this stuff that I'll never have," he said with genuine admiration. "We'd be lucky to have your input." 6 months into my limited contact period with my family, I established the Watson Design Scholarship at my alma mater specifically for talented students facing family opposition to their creative career paths. The program provided not just financial assistance, but mentorship from successful professionals who had overcome similar obstacles. At the scholarship announcement ceremony, I shared parts of my own story publicly for the first time. Afterward, several students approached me with tears in their eyes, sharing similar experiences of family members dismissing their creative passions. "Hearing that you built all this despite that negativity gives me hope," one young woman told me. "Maybe I can do it too." Those connections reinforced my conviction that the boundaries I'd established were not just for my benefit, but could help others find their path as well. My story was becoming something larger than personal family drama. It was about the broader struggle for self-determination and the courage to follow one's authentic calling. Meanwhile, wedding plans with Megan progressed. We decided on a relatively small ceremony at a modernist art gallery in Chicago, surrounded by people who genuinely supported our relationship. The question of whether to invite my family loomed large. "This is your day too," Megan reminded me. "Whatever you decide, I'll support." After much reflection and consultation with Dr. Bennett, I sent my parents and sister a simple invitation with a handwritten note expressing that I would welcome their presence if they could attend with respect for the occasion and my choices. It was the first direct communication I'd initiated in months. To my surprise, my father called personally to accept. "We'll be there," he said. "All of us. And, Herman, I'm proud of what you've built. I should have said that years ago." Those words, so long awaited, brought tears to my eyes. Perhaps there was hope for a new beginning after all. Almost exactly 1 year after sending that difficult letter to my parents, I found myself sitting across from my father in a quiet coffee shop halfway between our homes. He had reached out directly, asking to meet alone, something he had never done before. He looked older than I remembered, the lines around his eyes deeper, his posture slightly stooped. We exchanged awkward greetings before settling into an uncomfortable silence. "I've been doing a lot of thinking this past year," he finally said, staring into his coffee. "About you, about our family, about my role in everything that happened." I waited, giving him space to continue. "I failed you, Herman. I should have stood up for you, supported your dreams. I saw your talent from the beginning. Those logos you redesigned as a kid were remarkable. But I stayed silent when your mother dismissed them because it was easier." His candor stunned me. In all our years as father and son, he had never been so direct about our family dynamics. "I was raised to believe creative pursuits weren't practical," he continued. "My own father discouraged my interest in photography for the same reasons your mother discouraged your design work. I gave in, studied accounting, and spent 40 years in a career that never truly satisfied me." "You wanted to be a photographer?" I asked, realizing how little I knew about his dreams. He nodded. "Had quite an eye for it, according to my high school art teacher. But I let that dream go, and the worst part is, I let the same thing happen to you without saying a word." We talked for nearly 3 hours that afternoon, truly connecting, perhaps for the first time. He shared regrets and memories I'd never heard before. I shared the journey of building my business and finding confidence in my abilities, despite the family narrative. "I'm proud of you," he said as we prepared to leave. "Not just for your success, but for having the courage to follow your passion when I never did." Those words meant more than any financial achievement ever could. 2 weeks later, my mother suffered a minor heart attack. Although she recovered quickly, the health scare brought a new perspective to our estrangement. I visited her in the hospital, unsure of what to expect. She looked small in the hospital bed, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen before. We spoke cautiously at first, avoiding the deeper issues that had separated us. But as her recovery progressed, something shifted in our interactions. "Your design studio created that campaign for heart health awareness, didn't they?" she asked unexpectedly during one visit. "The nurse mentioned it when she saw your name on the visitor log. Said it was the best medical outreach design she'd ever seen." It was the first time she had acknowledged my work with something approaching admiration. The reconciliation process was neither quick nor simple. I maintained firm boundaries, making it clear that I would only participate in a relationship based on mutual respect. My mother struggled with this new dynamic, occasionally slipping into old patterns of criticism or attempting to leverage guilt. During one tense Sunday dinner, she made a dismissive comment about computer artists that echoed her past attitude. "Mom," I said calmly, "if you want me to stay for the rest of dinner, you need to speak respectfully about my profession. Those computer drawings paid off your mortgage and built a life I'm proud of." She looked startled, then thoughtful. "You're right. Old habits." "I'm trying, Herman." It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever received from her. My sister Lisa took longer to adjust to our new family dynamic. Having built her identity around being the successful child, my evident prosperity and our parents' growing respect for my career threatened her position. Eventually, though, even she began to acknowledge the legitimacy of my path. "Your team did incredible work on the hospital's new website," she admitted during a family gathering. "Everyone at work is talking about how much easier it is to use. I might have been wrong about the value of what you do." Coming from Lisa, this qualified as effusive praise. Meanwhile, my professional life continued to flourish. Watson Design Studio launched an educational platform called Design Forward, offering courses and resources for aspiring designers. We focused particularly on helping creative professionals communicate their value to skeptical family members or business contacts, turning my painful experience into something constructive for others. Megan and I married in the Modern Art Gallery as planned, with both our families in attendance. During the reception, my mother approached us, her expression uncharacteristically vulnerable. "The ceremony was beautiful," she said. "Everything, the invitations, the decorations, the program, it all works together perfectly. You really do have a gift for this, Herman. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it." Her eyes welled with tears, something I'd rarely witnessed in my entire life. "Thank you," I said, simply recognizing the courage it had taken for her to offer those words. Our relationship remained a work in progress. Decades of established patterns couldn't be undone in a few months or even years. But we were building something new, on the foundation of hard-earned mutual respect. When Megan and I announced we were expecting our first child, my mother's reaction surprised me again. "I have all your childhood art projects saved in the attic," she said. "I kept everything even when I didn't understand why it mattered so much to you. Would you like them for your child?" The revelation that she had preserved these pieces of my creative journey, even while openly dismissing their value, spoke to the complexity of parental love, even when poorly expressed. As our daughter Emma grew from infant to toddler, I watched carefully for her interests and inclinations, vowing to support whatever path she might choose. When she showed an early fascination with building blocks and spatial relationships, my mother was the one who bought her a colorful set of design-oriented toys. She might have your eye for design, my mother observed, without a trace of the dismissal that would have accompanied such a comment years before. The design education platform eventually grew into an accredited online design school with scholarships specifically for students from unsupportive backgrounds. At the 5-year anniversary celebration, I invited my parents to attend as honored guests. Standing at the podium addressing students, educators, and industry professionals, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought me to this moment. Success isn't about proving others wrong, I told the audience. It's about proving yourself right. Every one of us has a unique vision to contribute to the world. The challenge is believing in that vision even when those closest to us cannot yet see it. I glanced at my parents in the front row, my father nodding in agreement, my mother watching with what appeared to be genuine pride. The most valuable design I've created wasn't a logo or a website or a brand identity, I continued. It was the blueprint for a life built on authentic passion rather than others' expectations. That's the design that truly changed everything. After the ceremony, numerous students approached to share their stories of pursuing creative careers despite family opposition. Many had found their way to our program, specifically because of my openness about my own journey. Hearing about your experience with your family made me feel less alone, one student told me. If you could build all this despite that initial lack of support, maybe I can too. Each of these connections reinforced what had become my core belief that our greatest obstacles often lead to our most meaningful contributions. My mother's dismissal of my useless design degree had ultimately driven me to build not just a successful business but a supportive community for others facing similar challenges. Looking back on this journey, I realize now that true success isn't measured in mortgage payments or client rosters or even industry recognition. It's found in the courage to follow your authentic path despite obstacles, and then to use your success to light the way for others. So, I ask you, what dream are you hesitating to pursue because someone important doesn't believe in it? What would happen if you pursued it anyway? The path won't be easy. It certainly wasn't for me, but on the other side might be a life more fulfilling than you can imagine. If my story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that like button, subscribe to see more stories of persistence, and drop a comment sharing your own experience with following your passion despite the doubters. Your journey matters, and I'm grateful you spent this time with mine.